The kitchen sink at them, pile the attacking players onto the pitch. In the end, do you have the sense that you got maybe even the least you deserved?
Well, I'm very proud of the team, I must say. The way we played dominated them, and I'm very disappointed with the results.
What did you make of the first half?
Well, we started incredibly well, so dominant again. We were playing in their half, and we didn't allow them to breathe. But in one action, that was very chaotic because the ball bounces, it's a duel there, we lose it, and suddenly they find themselves 3v2 in open spaces, and they are lethal there, and they finish the action with the quality that they have. After that, we had 5 shaky minutes that we have to reset mentally because it was so unfair to concede a goal with what we were doing, and after that, we just completely dominated the game again.
Do you have the sense that it was an unstoppable goal? I mean, think back to the Zoboszlai goal against Liverpool. I mean, it's a different kind of goal, but
there is always things that we can do better from the beginning. The way we deliver the cross when we have an overload in the back post to a defending organization after. We made it a bit easy for them, but the speed, the execution, the quality that they have as well, you have to congratulate the opponent.
So you obviously changed a couple of players at half-time. Alongside that, what did you say to your team?
Let's continue to do a lot of the good things that we are doing, reset mentally, because the game is there for the taking. And if we will continue to do that and improve 2 things, especially that we have to do a bit better to give ourselves better chances and more momentum, we're going to score the goals. And we're very close to that.
What were those things, Miguel?
That stays in the dressing room.
Right, fair enough. You talked before the game, in fact, you've talked all season long about finishers, having guys who can come on and affect the match. Ezra's ball, Martinelli for the second time in a week. So is that a really pleasing thing from today? Those guys having the right mentality and obviously the quality to come and affect the match.
Very pleasing. The ones that didn't play in Bilbao, like Willy, for example, and Leo, that they get the chance to play and they play at the level that they did. The ones they didn't, Gabi probably deserved to play, he didn't. And instead of moaning, he comes with an unbelievable energy to help the team to get a point. Epps the same. And every player is going to be doing that because we know how difficult and tough it's going to be, and we're going to need everybody at the best.
I know you said you're disappointed with the result at least. How big a point though might that be?
I don't know, but obviously you cannot win it. At least don't lose it, and we created an unbelievable moment to score the goal. But the overall feeling, because I know how hard it is to do what we've done on the pitch against Manchester City with that level, with that coach, I wanted more reward for the team.
Have you seen them like that? Like they were particularly second half in a 5-4-1. Stones comes on, Ake comes on for Foden. It feels like, I don't remember seeing City really like that. I think they had 34% of the ball.
Well, I think every team tries to do their best to get the results, and that's it.
Just tell us a little bit, when you look back and you think back to the second half performance. I know it's easy for guys like me with hindsight, but do you look back and think, I wish the team that played or started the second half had started the first half?
As you said, you define it really well.
It is easy, but why? Okay, but why not? Because I mean, I don't understand your team in the game as well as you do. So why not? Why not start?
A lot of reasons to do that, but it's fine. We changed it. We made the players and the game that we wanted when that game was required. Before it was required a different game.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Miguel. And your team's performance?
We cannot make analysis without what happened this week. Like we play the tough games United and Champions League, and on Thursday now today, and the team like is so powerful in all the aspects. It just heads off to the team how they're resilient. Of course, it's so difficult where you're not effective in high pressing and you're not effective in the build-up. Always is so tough and so difficult to do it. We make some transitions. I think the result is fair. It's a little bit we're close in the 5 or 10 results, but I think in general Arsenal was better. And the team was there, and we had better result than last season. I would say we had better result than last season against United, so we take for that.
So, is the most pleasing thing for you the togetherness your team's shown today? That's something it feels like you've been looking for and looking at in the early weeks of the season.
Well, absolutely. I think since United, when the transfer window's finished, and everybody knows that we'll be here for a long time. Of course, it has been. The togetherness in the 3 games have been top. Of course, in the way we play today, it's so demanding for them. They are so aggressive, and in the long balls, on balls, they are so really good, and they have everything. So we defend incredible well the corners, like they are a masters, and we take that point. Of course, we have to improve, but after 5 games in the Premier League is where it is.
I think you said you weren't effective in your high pressing. Why was that?
They were better, and we were incredibly tired. So sometimes the people don't realize. So the game against Napoli, Champions League, was so emotional. And after that recovery day, and they ask you have to wait 4 or 5 hours, because maybe you don't know, you live in London, you have that privilege, but the people who live in the northeast, so we have 4 or 5 hours to arrive into London, and it's more fatigue and everything. So, and guys, the team they fought last 2 Premier Leagues to win it, and arrived semi-final Champions League, and not just Man City invest money, they did it as well, and it's so tough. So I could not expect differently, but we were there. We talk about you have to be so strong in terms of mentality. We have done it.
So in the end, I know you said before the game, schedule's not an issue. In the end, the schedule was an issue for you today. It's fair question, no?
You are the journalist, my friend. You understand my process and what happened. Don't understand me. 10 years we are together, so. Okay. Honestly, so of course effective. The mindset has to be strong, but we have a lot, fatigue with the same players. We have, how many injuries. John came back for the injury for the national team for a long time. We have Cherky, we have Rainuri, we have Nathan had been out as well all the time. So we have to put a lot of players. Maybe forget that the rhythm. Kusanov was injured with this kind of positions with the pace that he has. We don't have it. So many things can happen. But if you want to bring it, the fact that now I'm complaining for the schedule, that's okay. I'm complaining for the schedule. Are you satisfied?
No.
Okay.
Wait. Sorry, I thought you were going. Today, going to the 5 at the back, taking off Foden, taking off Haaland, are those decisions that you make because of the schedule, because your team's incredibly tired, or is that a sign of a different City? It does feel like it's a slightly different approach this season, playing more on the counter attack.
We'll try to don't be like this. We'll try to don't be like this. But when the opponent is better and we defend deeper, if we have Erling or Tijani or other, we can use the counter-attack, yes. But our intention is not like this. After 10 years here, I think sometimes the opponent is good. Sometimes during 10 years when we won the leagues and other titles, always we make actions, the counter. You remember when it's Leroy and Raheem?
I do.
You remember how many counter-attacks we did that with Kevin? You remember? Yeah, with the quality. I would have preferred not to do it, but you cannot expect in this level to do it. So it's impossible. So that's why I'm take a point, and it depends on the game. You have to try to adjust players and do it as fast as possible.
1-1 the final today from the Emirates as Arsenal played Manchester City to a draw. And the happiest people, Michael, who would have to be Liverpool, who now have a 5-point lead atop the table. I'm Ali Trost-Martin. That was a wild one. Gabriel Martinelli, the hero at home with a late equalizer. Manchester City led for most of this match. What was your main takeaway from how this one played out?
Look, Arsenal are the deepest team in the Premier League, right? They're the deepest team in world football, in my opinion. And you get it from another super subs. Super subs have been the saving grace of Mikel Arteta. I go back to the Champions League. Another pedestrian performance up until changes are made late. Another pedestrian performance yet again. But you have to give flowers where flowers are due. Gabriel Martinelli, he is that guy right now. And when it comes to Manchester City as of late at the Emirates, he's the guy. Scored the winner a couple seasons ago and gets them a much needed draw yet again today. Yeah, no doubt. Well, we had some questions going into this match about the starting lineup. So let's start there with how Arsenal began this match with a couple of question marks. Michael, what was the biggest one for you when you took a look at how Mikel Arteta lined up his side? I mean, Arsenal fans are going to be screaming at why in the hell you start Leandro Trossard against Manchester City when you spent £67 million on Eberechi Eze. The midfield aside, I'm going to get to that in a bit, but Leandro Trossard played 84 minutes in a match that is of the biggest importance to the Premier League campaign after the disappointment of Liverpool. It's not good enough for Mikel Arteta, and I question his mentality going in against Manchester City. You look at this front three, that's not quality. That's not the quality you need against City, but that midfield three, Mikel Moreno, I thought he was disappointing yet again, and it's proven How many matches is it going to take for Mikel Arteta to realize that midfield three of Mikel Moreno, Martin Zubimendi, and Declan Rice, you have zero creativity, you have zero just impetus to get forward, and they made it predictable for Manchester City. Their biggest saving grace is that they have the quality, and the quality bailed out Arteta from what would have been a very scathing review on this network and around the world.
Yeah, well, the lack of creativity has been an issue, not just in this game, but oftentimes for this Arsenal side when they're missing certain players in the mix, not being able to create enough clinical opportunities aside from maybe their set-piece taking ability. And Mike, they went way too long in this game without really any good opportunities on goal, and it wasn't until some of those second half changes. So what can Mikel Arteta learn from how this game played out and moving forward, maybe put themselves in better position from the start to not have to come back and rely on Gabriel Martinelli to score an insane goal at home, to rescue a point?
You need to start playing your best players in their best positions. I've said this since they signed Eberechi. I think his best position for Arsenal is going to be in the midfield. We saw that for the first time today. As soon as he was on the pitch in center midfield, I think he's an upgrade from Martin Odegaard.
Wow.
I'm going to say that. I stand by that. The pass that he put on a dime for Martinelli was world class. I know we hear that from all around the world. That is a world class play from a player who is ready to take the responsibility and mantle. Eze gives you the ability to create gaps for himself off the dribble. No other Arsenal midfielder can give you that. And for the first time seeing him and Bukayo Saka on the pitch, we saw some chemistry. We saw some instant combinations. And they had Manchester City on the ropes like this till the very end. So that is the number one change that I make with Martin Odegaard. You have to put Eze in the midfield. Put him on that right side with Bukayo Saka, and you will get a lot better quality in the final third. But at the end of the day, Arsenal not good enough on the day. They get the point, but still not good enough.
Well, in a tale of two halves, the second half was much better for the Gunners, who did rely on those super subs, which has been the case in these last couple of games. They've gotten some crucial goals from the guys coming off the bench. And while I can understand, we talk about some mistakes maybe made in the starting lineup, I ultimately think this is an excellent problem for Arsenal to have. In seasons past, they've just not had the depth to go all the way. And to see a player like Martinelli now with goals in the last two games, crucial goals at that in the Champions League and in the Premier League, if having more competition in the group just ultimately raises the floor for a player like Gabriel Martinelli, who at times does kind of lack when he plays more significant minutes in a match, at least what Arsenal need going forward. Sometimes his 1v1 ability just drops off. He's not as strong as maybe he was in seasons past. How do you think Martinelli is going to embrace this new role on the team if it is a super sub? Because what we've seen so far, not too bad.
You need to start rewarding a player like that. And I think Arsenal fans and Premier League fans were trying to get him out the door in the summer. They were saying, we need better quality on the left side. You were one of them, right? I think so many Arsenal fans have said that. So I'm really happy for him. And I always put myself in the player's shoes. As a human being, I'm so happy for him to step up and almost show Victor Gyökeres what finishing in a big game looks like. But Arsenal's success comes down to one player. It's not Gabriel Martinelli. It's not Saka. It's Mikel Arteta.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think he's a difference between his mentality of taking the handbrake off. This is a handbrake lineup. When you see Mikel Moreno, when you see Zubimendi and Declan Rice in your middle of the park, that says, I'm still cautious. I don't believe that I have what it takes to get over the line in the Premier League. And you've already seen the ownership come out. And Josh Kroenke's come out and said, we've given him everything he needs. This is a do-or-die, make-or-break season, my opinion, for Mikel Arteta.
100%.
He has to get a trophy of some sort. And I think the Premier League has to be the focus for him.
Yeah, the pressure's on Mikel Arteta and Arsenal to win something. Well, a team that has won a lot in recent years is Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. Mike, what did you make of the way that Pep Guardiola approached the rest of the game after they got out to an early lead? Sometimes it's almost more difficult when you lead early because then you got to manage the rest of the game. Did they sit back a little too much, in your opinion?
Yeah, they really did. And the substitution of taking Erling Haaland out right before the goal comes, I think it came a bit premature. And this City lineup, I mean, that's 3 straight matches that we've seen some iteration of this entire 11. So some tired legs. I give him the out with that. I think we saw some tired legs from City. Donnarumma, I really feel for him because he got caught in terms of positioning a bit out too much, and it cost them in the goal a bit of hesitation, kind of like what we saw before the Champions League run with him with PSG. That was more of Donnarumma in that last dying minutes in Ligue 1 and not PSG. But overall, City, they will take the point. Very disappointing, but for a side that's getting players back, at the end of the day, just as long as Erling Haaland is getting you goals, I think they'll be disappointed they didn't put that game away earlier and they paid the price at the end.
Yeah, 100%. City could have definitely used 3 points. They sit 9th in the table now after splitting with Arsenal today. But there are still some positives to take away, Mike, and one of those is the fact that we've started to see a more consistent lineup in recent matches from Manchester City. So what's been your assessment of how they've started to grow, particularly on defense?
Oh, in the back line, I thought Nico O'Reilly stood up to be held accounted for. Josko Guardiola and Ruben Dias, for much of that game, thought they were a steel trap door. How they defended crosses, set pieces. You saw Guardiola getting his head, bang. I feel like I'm getting back to playing, just playing with the players. And look, they're going to get better. There's been some significant injuries at the start of the season. John Stones coming back for injury. It's going to boost this back line. But my questions that I had for City before this past week were, they got a draw today. They beat Napoli. And they beat Manchester United. That's a good week for Manchester City. There was this sense of potential panic or unease around Pep and his team, because the question was, if Erling Haaland doesn't score goals or get involved in the final third or put the team on his back, then who's going to really step up? Phil Foden and Jeremy Doku, they put in an absolute shift defensively today because they had to. But you take the point and you take the fact that Erling Haaland is still banging you goals. He's one of the hottest strikers in world football right now.
Yeah, and it was no different today. He scored 9 minutes into the match against Arsenal, and he's really just been a headache for this Arsenal team in recent matchups. As we take a look at some of Erling Haaland's numbers against Arsenal in all comps: 9 appearances, 5 goals, and a goal in each of the last 3 appearances. Look, I know this is a tough guy to stop, but how have Arsenal, one of the best defensive teams in the Premier League, just not been able to keep him contained?
One of the scariest moments in world football is when you have acres of space behind you and it's Erling Haaland running in. He left Gabriel for dead, for dust when he went in for the goal. The thing I was disappointed with most was he had a 1v1 opportunity. I think it was maybe in the second half where he's in on goal on David Raya. And David Raya, that save, that could be the difference from Arsenal being out of the Premier League title race further on in the season, and Manchester City getting a big 3 points and reinserting themselves back in the title race. So Haaland is still going to get his goals, and it's a milestone moment for him. That's 91 goals in the Premier League, which has him level with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who's a legend for Manchester United, and Olivier Giroud, who used to play for Arsenal. So he's a frightening goal machine, and he's only going to get better.
Yeah, unstoppable, but his one goal ultimately not enough to get the win today as Arsenal and City split points at the Emirates.
The 45-minute mistake that cost Mikel Arteta and Arsenal 3 points against Manchester City. In football, moments define matches. And sometimes, the moment that matters most is the one that comes too late. Mikel Arteta, a manager known for his tactical discipline and long-term vision, waited 45 minutes too long to make the change Arsenal desperately needed. Against a fierce rival like Manchester City, a team that punishes hesitation, those 45 minutes were the difference between 1 point and 3. Yes, Bukayo Saka's second-half appearance offered some life. And yes, Eberechi made a tangible impact off the bench, assisting the late equalizer. But the question that lingered long after the final whistle was simple: why did it take so long? A cautious approach that backfired. Arteta's decision to start with a midfield trio of Mikel Merino, Declan Rice, and Martin Zubimendi may have been rooted in structure and security, but it ultimately lacked edge. It was the 3rd time he had deployed that same combination this season. The result? 0 goals while all 3 were on the pitch. Only in Bilbao, after Victor Gyökeres came off and Merino was allowed to push higher, did Arsenal finally break through. But that spark came too late against City. And in a fixture that demanded invention, Arteta opted for control. When asked post-match about the selection, he offered little beyond, "I thought it was the best option to start the game." But safe doesn't win titles. Not against opponents like Manchester City. E's impact, a bitter reminder. Seeing E's come on after half-time and immediately change the dynamic was bittersweet. He didn't just provide flair, he delivered results. His assist salvaged a point. But it also highlighted how different the match could have looked if he'd been trusted from the start. Even Noni Madueke, who once again impressed, could only do so much on his own. Without a creative partner in the final third, Arsenal looked one-dimensional for far too long. The Victor Gyökeres question: problem or symptom? Much will be said about Gyökeres' performance. Another game against a top-6 opponent without a single shot. But the reality is clear. This isn't a Gyökeres problem, it's an Arsenal problem. The Swedish striker thrives on service, on movement, on chaos in the box. Against City, he received none of that. It wasn't until the 70th minute that Arsenal played a meaningful pass between the lines, resulting in a corner. Too little. Too late. Gyökeres will shine against lower table sides where space and opportunity are more abundant. But in matches like these, when fine margins define the outcome, the burden of creation must fall to others. Saka, Degaard, ease. And critically, the manager must be bold enough to unleash them early. Arteta's post-match reflection. Thin justifications. Arteta defended his striker's performance. There were many good balls into the area. I remember 3 that he was very close to finishing. Big chances are hard to come by, but he's doing everything he can. We need to give him more, that's it. He's not wrong. But admitting the striker needs more support only reinforces the criticism. Arsenal didn't offer enough, and that starts with selection. A season not lost, but lessons must be learned. To be clear, Arsenal haven't collapsed. They haven't stumbled beyond recovery. Their early season fixture list was unkind. 3 grueling away matches, including a looming trip to Newcastle and 2 dominant home wins. 13 points from a possible 18 would still be a strong foundation, should they find a way to win at St. James Park. These aren't cracks in the foundation. They're signs of a team under construction, battling the elements before the structure is fully in place. But if Arsenal are serious about chasing silverware this year, these are the moments that must be handled better. These are the decisions that can't be delayed. Looking ahead, Arsenal's next steps. There's reason for optimism. Saka is back. Degaard is pushing through his recovery. Ease is growing in confidence, and Madueke continues to shine. Kai Havertz, too, would have been a welcome presence in a game like this, someone to bring tactical versatility and intelligent movement to the No. 9 role. Importantly, Arsenal avoided defeat. That matters. Momentum is still within reach. Now comes a stretch of games that can truly shift the season's trajectory. November's challenge will require courage, clarity, and risk, qualities Arteta has shown before, but must now show again. Because in this league, especially in a title race, the smallest delays can cost the biggest prizes. The ripple effect, what Arteta's decisions signal to the squad. More than just tactical missteps, Arteta's reluctance to start his most creative players sends a message to the dressing room, intentional or not. When flair is left on the bench and predictability starts in midfield, it implies hesitation. For a squad with young, hungry talent eager to take the next step, that message can dull momentum. Players like Eberechi Ease and Ethan Nwaneri don't just bring technical skill, they bring unpredictability, bravery, and a sense of forward urgency. Keeping that energy on the sidelines too long may not only cost results, but slowly sap the confidence of those who spark the team needs most. It's a fine line between caution and constraint. And on Sunday, Arteta leaned toward the latter. Supporters react, a growing frustration beneath the surface. Among the Arsenal faithful, the result against City was met with a mix of relief and frustration. The point earned felt more like a rescue than a reward. For fans who remember the 5-1 demolition of last season, or even the narrow 2-1 loss in 2022 where Arsenal played on the front foot, this version of the team felt too reserved. Too unsure. Post-match discussions across fan forums and social media weren't centered on the draw, but on why it had to be a draw. The dominant narrative wasn't about who played well. It was about who should have played from the start. And in the eyes of many, it came down to a tactical hesitance at the top. Title contenders can't afford to play catch-up. In a title race, every point matters. But so does every pattern. Drawing away to City isn't, in isolation, a poor result. But the manner of the performance tells a deeper story. Dominance in possession doesn't always translate into threat. And while Arsenal controlled large portions of the match, they created very few moments that truly stretched the City backline. When the breakthrough finally came, from a long ball and a flash of brilliance, it felt less like design and more like improvisation. That lack of offensive cohesion raises an important question. If Degaard and Saka aren't fully fit, who is prepared to orchestrate the attack? And is Arteta willing to let them? A test of Arteta's evolution. This phase of Arsenal's project isn't about rebuilding anymore, it's about execution. Arteta has built a squad with depth, versatility, and ambition. The club has invested heavily, not just in talent, but in players ready to compete at the highest level. But if those tools aren't being used with courage, especially in the season's defining fixtures, the project risks stalling. Arteta has already proven he can coach a team into contention. Now, he must prove he can lead them to domination, not just by structure, but by instinct. That means trusting his most gifted players earlier, even if it introduces a layer of risk. Because when the stakes are this high, playing not to lose isn't enough. The road ahead, November's crucial window. With a pivotal away trip to Newcastle next, followed by a more favourable stretch of fixtures, the opportunity to build rhythm is right in front of them. But momentum needs more than results. It needs intent. Arsenal can't afford another game where urgency only arrives after half-time. The potential is unmistakable. This team has the balance of youth and experience, the structure, the depth, and now, arguably, the hunger. But if that ambition isn't reflected in the first whistle lineup decisions, they risk repeating the same frustrating patterns that cost them last season. Title-winning teams aren't just measured by what they survive. They're defined by what they seize.